Caleb Yum onto the podcast. We're excited to have Caleb here. He covers Texas State for the Austin Statesman. Caleb, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bennett.
For more than 20 years, SignPro has been proudly serving the Valley, helping local businesses stand out and get noticed. Whether it's vehicle wraps that turn heads on the road, dimensional signs that elevate your storefront, or long-lasting banners with yard signs, we bring quality and experience to every project. With a reputation built on craftsmanship and trust, we're here to make your message impossible to miss. Visit mysignpros.net and let's showcase your business with confidence. That's mysignpros.net. Love JMU Sports News? Help us keep bringing you the best coverage we possibly can. Support the show and fuel our work at buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News. Every cup keeps us rolling all season long. Buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News. Big win, huge play. Don't just remember it, wear the moment. Breaking Team makes shirts that capture the game's biggest highlights right as they happen. Gear up today using the link in the description. College football's back, and it's time to upgrade your game day gear. Right now, claim 15% off at Home Field. The best retro and vintage apparel in the game. Rep JMU in style. Don't wait. Check the link in description to get your 15% off.
Yeah, we're excited to talk about the Bobcats. I think let's start big picture. JMU fans have probably paid some attention to the Sun Belt West, but maybe not a ton. What can you tell us about this Texas State team that seems like from the outside has sort of this incredible offense, maybe with a defense that isn't quite matching that offense?
Well, the big picture right now is they're on a three-game losing streak. And they've lost these past three games in absolutely incredible fashion. It is truly unbelievable what they've done. They played Arkansas State, and they were on the 3-yard line with 2 timeouts and a tied game. They literally, or not, they were down, my bad. They were down, I think like 2 points or something. And all they needed to do is just wait out the clock, kick a field goal, and they'd win the game because Arkansas State only had 1 timeout. Instead, they scored a touchdown right away, and that gave Arkansas State a chance to drive all the way down the field and score a touchdown and kick the extra point and win the game because the kicker missed the extra point. So they lost that game 31-30. And they play Troy. They're up 28-7 after the first quarter. Defense completely falls apart. Secondary, absolute nightmare. And they lose that game in overtime. And also they missed a game-winning kick at the end of regulation to win that game as well. So that was insane. And then against Marshall, things are close, but it looks like the defense is actually playing pretty well. It's like, oh wow, it's, decent. They go up in the third quarter, and then they go for it up 4 on Marshall's 3-yard line. They don't get it. They throw an interception instead. And then Marshall turns that into a field goal. And then in the fourth quarter, up, I want to say 8, they do a fake punt on their own 26-yard line. Punter fumbles the ball. So that turns into another 3. And then they lose that game in double overtime. After Brad Jackson, the quarterback, takes a sack at the end of regulation to effectively force a 50-yard field goal that ties the game. So it's just been a really weird past 3 weeks for Texas State. They have a very, very explosive offense that gets off to really good starts, and then in the second half, things just kind of fall apart for whatever reason. They're honestly 3 kicks away from being 6-1.
Yeah.
But they just can't seem to get out of their own way. So yeah, very dangerous team, I'd say, but lots of weird execution errors over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm curious what fans have made of that, because there is a case that they should be 6-1 with the 1 loss to a really good Arizona State team. They got the road win at UTSA, which I know people were excited about. You mentioned Brad Jackson at quarterback. Bo Sparks has been awesome at wide receiver. There's a lot to like about this team. How have fans sort of, I guess, dealt with the fact that they do have a losing record despite looking pretty good for a decent amount of the season?
I'd say they all of them want to fire the defensive coordinator, Dexter McCoy. But I have to say, in this last game against Marshall, he did not do a bad job at all. He seemed to adjust. Game plan was pretty solid. And it feels like a lot of doom and gloom because GJ Kinney has never lost 3 games in a row. Well, at Texas State, he's never had a record below 500, and now he has both of them. So it kind of seems like there's a vibe that the magic over the past 2 years is kind of wearing off, and things are kind of coming back down. And there's disappointment because there was expectation that he set over the past 2 years. And, previously Texas State was just not a great program. So, 8-5 felt good. Now, 2 8-5 seasons, 2 bowl wins, fans want a little more, especially heading into the Pac-12. So there's some disappointment, there's some doubt. Objectively from the outside, it's just stuff happens, man.
Yeah.
Games like this happen. I mean, I think Kenny does need to be better in late game situations. It seems to me that when there aren't stakes, he's more willing to go for it, up
Okay.
a few points, like he'll go for it on 4th down, he'll go for the fake punt. But for example, against Marshall, they score second in overtime. And if you go by the book, you should go for 2 there.
Yeah.
And just because you need a whip, go for 2 at some point. But he kicks the extra point, which just is not in line with the previous decision to go for the fake punt or go for it on 4th down up 4. So to me, it feels like he needs to really decide, like, okay, are we an aggressive team that'll go for it in these kind of situations, or are we going to be more conservative? Are we going to trust the defense? So vibe's not great, but there's a lot of things to be positive about, like you said.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. You mentioned the fans with some frustration about the defense. I'm always curious with offenses like that tend to go fast and they're trying to create explosives. How much of maybe the defense's issues are because they're on the field a lot? How much of it is because maybe they're not as talented? I'm curious what the coaches and maybe fans say about why the offense has been electric and the defense has been kind of hit or miss over the years.
I think this year, definitely the defense just lacks talent.
Yeah.
It's the corners are just almost good enough. I want to say Kamari Terrell has really come along over the past few games. He's very, very solid for them. He had a pass breakup against Troy on 4th down, which got called pass interference, but in my opinion was just a really good play. That would have ended the game effectively. Um, on the other side, Jaden Rios has really had a very rocky season in the secondary in terms of like good one week, not great the other week, really handsy, lots of PI. So the secondary has been just a huge problem because they really lack any kind of consistency there. And in previous years, they were making up for the weaker defense by getting a lot of turnovers, right? Forced fumbles, interceptions, and the like. They only have 2 on the year. This year, one of them was against Nichols, which honestly, you don't really need that against Nichols. But yeah, so it's just a lot of talent issues. I think they were very high on the edge rushers coming in the season, and while they've been good, they haven't been like fantastic. So I don't think that it's much of like an offensive issue, in my opinion. I think it's just really a lot more on the defense because while they have a pretty decent run defense and the edges are good, the secondary has just been like atrocious across the board, if we're being completely honest.
Every Monday, go to the house with former JMU quarterback Vad Lee and Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce. It's the weekly JMU football podcast with insider insight you won't find anywhere else from 2 guys who've worn the jersey. Listen now. Subscribe to the JMU Sports News Podcast Network to never miss an episode of To the House every Monday. Love JMU Sports News? Help us keep bringing you the best coverage we possibly can. Support the show and fuel our work at buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News. Every cup keeps us rolling all season long. Buymeacoffee.com/JMU Sports News.
Gotcha. I'm curious too with this one. You don't see a ton of Tuesday night games, especially in conferences other maybe than Conference USA or the MAC. What do you make of this in terms of game prep, but then also what might a crowd look like for a Texas State home game on a Tuesday?
You know, I think it's going to be a pretty sizable crowd.
Hmm.
From just the looks of things, they seem to really be pushing this one hard. I think the organization, the program knew that this was going to be one of their like, if we can win this game, things look really good for us. So they're pulling out the stops, free t-shirt, like first, few in, yada yada, like blackout, blackout the stadium. So I think it's going to be a really strong home environment,
Hmm.
I would say. As, someone who's first year on the beat, the crowd has impressed me more than I thought. I think
Yeah.
that's in general the vibe of San Marcos is like people go in, they're like, oh, crowd, I don't really know, but you show up, you're like, oh, hey, this is pretty good. And so I think Tuesday, with not, I think midterms are almost over. I think it's going to be a really pretty decent crowd.
Awesome. Yeah, that should be a fun one to watch. And then the
Oh yeah.
offense, you talk about Brad Jackson at quarterback. What makes him so good? Obviously, the stats from pretty much every skill player they have, and then him are pretty incredible. But what is it about him and this scheme that allowed them to put up so many points so regularly?
Well, first you got to start with the rushing ability.
Yeah.
He's fast. He's real fast. He's a really dynamic mover. And that really creates a lot of conflict on like with the rushing attack. 'Cause, he can hand it off, he can take it himself. When he feels pressure, he can dip out, he can scramble out and create out of structure. I always say, people have disputed me on this, but I'm pretty confident in this. He kind of runs like Kyler Murray, where
Mm.
like his feet are moving really fast and he looks like he's kind of running away from something constantly. It's really funny to watch. And then as a passer, he hadn't had to do too much over the past like 5 games until Marshall. And
Mhm.
Marshall has a really good run defense. Speaking of which, JMU, y'all seem to have really good rush defense as well. And they couldn't get much going on the ground, so they started leaning him on his arm. And then you could see that, oh, this kid actually is pretty damn talented with his arm. He
Yeah.
dropped back like 40 times, was still completing a pretty high percentage of his passes. It's not the strongest arm ever, but it's good enough. It's more than good enough to access, the outside of the hashes throws, those outs and whatnot, and hit those deep shots. He hit a couple really good ones to Kriston Jr., who was the suspected number one coming into the year before Bo Sparks came over. And now that he's healthy, Texas State has two really good wideouts on each side of the field. So that's, I think, a really huge point of conflict for defenses because you got to choose one, like which one are you going to stop, but it's hard when both of them are so good. And yeah, so his dynamic, and I think I wrote a feature on him. I think his ability to like kind of just bounce back from mistakes. He has a really strong mental game in terms
Mhm.
of like he understands that he's going to mess up at some point, but he doesn't let it affect him past that point. He's like, I'm going to try to be perfect, but I know when I mess up, I'm going to, it's fine because it happens. It happens to everybody. So I think all of that combines to make a quarterback that as a redshirt freshman might go down as one of the best quarterback seasons in Texas State history. He's been really, really good.
Yeah, he's been a stud. He's fun to watch from afar,
Hmm.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess last question, I'm interested kind of how you see this game maybe playing out. Texas State in their losses has been really competitive. They're probably much better than the record says at this point. Are you expecting a tight contest on Tuesday?
Man, JMU has been really good this year, I gotta say. And I think y'all's quarterback, I know you started with two. I think you're going with Alonzo
Yeah, Barnett's been the guy
Barnett.
since this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think he's gonna have a field day, honestly. Like, I think you win against this defense, but through the air because the rush
Mhm.
defense has been honestly really good. Uh, And I don't think Texas State's going to be able to run the ball super effectively. They weren't able to do it against Marshall. I really have a hard time seeing how they can do it against JMU. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a through the air shootout, in my opinion. And then it comes down to late game execution, which, as I talked about, it's not really been Texas State's strong suit. And honestly, I'm really not a homer. So, but I do think that at some point the fortune has to flip for Texas State. So
Right.
I think they win a very close game. I think if you asked for a score, I'd say it's like 35-32 or something like that. I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we can't wait for this one. It should be a good one. JMU's had some road
hmm
woes, so a Tuesday spot in Texas has some fans worried
Yeah,
for sure.
that might be the problem.
It's a
I'd
tough
I'd
spot.
take
Yeah.
the over though.
Yeah.
100. I'd smash that over button.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of points. This one should be a fun one to
Mm.
watch. For fans who are interested in learning more about Texas State and following your work, where can they find what you're doing leading up to the game and then on game day and all your coverage?
Yeah, no, Austin American Statesman, just statesman.com. You go to college and it's going to be a lot of Longhorn, but if you look real closely, you can find some Texas State coverage in there. But yeah, I'll start a podcast eventually. Haven't had time to do it yet, still getting, my feet under me, but yeah, subscribe. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for
All
the
right.
time.
No, appreciate it, Bennett.